I had a conversation yesterday that's happened 100 times before. A friend, someone I care deeply about, couldn't understand what I was saying. No matter how I explained it, she kept coming back to the same thing. She would say, "But you have to stand for something. You can't just say everyone is right." And I kept saying, "I'm not saying everyone is right. I'm not saying you shouldn't have convictions. That's not what I'm saying at all." But the more I tried to clarify, the more she doubled down. And here's what I finally realized. She was hearing me talk about how and thinking I was challenging her what. She has deep convictions about justice, about human dignity, about standing up for what's right. And she thought I was telling her those convictions were wrong. But I wasn't. I was trying to tell her that the way we hold those convictions, the way we engage people who disagree, that's what's counterproductive. I see this everywhere. Someone posts something on Facebook that's meant to be about justice or truth, but it's so divisive, so aimed at their own tribe that it's actually creates more division. And when you point that out, they get defensive. They'll say like, "Oh, so you're saying I shouldn't stand for anything?" No, I'm saying how you stand matters as much as what you stand for. Here's the thing people miss. You can be 100% right about what needs to change and still be 100% wrong about how to create that change. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine there's two surgeons. They both look at the same patient. They both see the same problem. There's a tumor that needs to be removed. Both have the same diagnosis. Both have the same conviction. This patient's life needs to be saved. The what is identical. They agree completely on what needs to happen, but they differ on the how. Surgeon A is absolutely certain he's right. He's seen this before. He knows what to do. So he rushes into surgery, doesn't consult with other doctors. He already knows what needs to happen, uses tools that are familiar to him, even if they're not the best tools for this particular case. When a nurse raises a concern, he dismisses it. He's the expert. He knows best. In fact, he even becomes defensive when any of the other doctors or any of the nurses question him. And in the process, the patient dies. Now, Surgeon B has the same diagnosis, the same conviction that the tumor must be removed. But he takes time, consults with colleagues, considers multiple approaches, uses the best tools for this patient, not just the tools he's most comfortable with, listens to the nurses, the anesthesiologist, the radiologist, proceeds carefully, deliberately, adjusting as he goes. And this time the patient lives. So here's my question. Which surgeon had the right convictions? Well, they both did. They both correctly diagnosed the problem. They both wanted to save the patient's life. They both knew the tumor needed to be removed. The what was identical. The convictions were identical, but only one of the patients survived. Why? Because being right about what needs to happen doesn't mean you automatically know how to do it effectively. Surgeon A wasn't wrong about what needed to happen. He was wrong about how to make it happen. His certainty, his refusal to listen, his rushed approach, his unwillingness to consider other perspective. That's what killed the patient. And this is exactly what I'm trying to say about the way we engage with issues that matter. You can be absolutely right that systemic racism exists. That's your what? Your conviction. But if the way you talk about it, the how, alienates the very people who need to understand it, well, then you're Surgeon A. Right diagnosis, wrong method, and the patient suffers. You can be absolutely right that border security matters. That's your what. But if the way you engage people who disagree, the how, dehumanizes immigrants or turns everyone who wants compassionate immigration policy into an enemy, you're Surgeon A. This is not about weakening your convictions. This is about strengthening your effectiveness. That Facebook post that I mentioned, the person accused of being divisive, who posted something that was itself divisive, he had the right what? He cares about truth. He cares about justice. But his how was terrible. It was virtue signaling. It was preaching to his choir. It was drawing lines and daring people to cross them. And then when people said, "You're being divisive," he couldn't even see it because he was so focused on defending his what, his convictions, that he couldn't see his how was undermining everything he claims to care about. I can agree that acts of violence are never okay. That's my what, my conviction, without turning the aggressor into an enemy I need to defeat. That's my how. I can stand firmly for my values without standing against people. That's the difference. My work, everything I'm trying to communicate is about the how, not the what. I'm not saying you shouldn't have convictions. Please hear me. Have your convictions. Know what you stand for. Fight for what matters. But understand this: it is actually counterproductive to lose sight of the difference between standing for your convictions and standing against an enemy. When you make the enemy the center, when your how is about defeating them, you're surgeon A. You might have the right diagnosis, but your method is killing the patient. There's a difference between conviction and certainty. Conviction is about what you believe and how you'll live. Certainty is about how you hold that belief, clutching it so tightly that you can't hear, can't learn, can't engage. You can have deep convictions and still approach people with curiosity. You can know what you stand for and still be open to how someone else sees the situation. You can fight for change and still treat those who disagree as human beings worthy of dignity. It's not weakness, that's wisdom. And it's the only way to actually create the change that you care about. Because here's the truth: your what might be absolutely right. Your convictions might be exactly what this world needs now. But if your how is divisive, defensive, and dehumanizing, you're going to fail. Not because your convictions are wrong, but because your method is counterproductive. The patient will die, the change won't happen, the divide will deepen. And you'll wonder why having the right answer didn't matter. I know this is hard. It's hard to examine not just what you believe, but how you hold those beliefs. It's hard to hear that your passion might actually be getting in the way of your purpose. But if you actually care about creating change, if you actually want to see the world become more just, more compassionate, more aligned with your values, you have to care about your method as much as your message. You have to care about the how as much as the what. Be surgeon B. Know what needs to happen. Have strong convictions about it. And then approach the work with humility, curiosity, and the wisdom to listen, even when you're certain you're right. That's how change actually happens. That's the work.